Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, July 21st, although by the time many of you are listening to this, it is probably Monday, as it is a little bit of a later evening episode here on a Sunday program. Episode 21 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. We thank you as always for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Appreciate all your support as always. DiMari camp is here. We are here. We finally made it. It was I will admit, I think I went into the off season. These podcasts definitely helped. Looking forward to the weekends every single week, kind of get you through the weekday, thinking of topics, seeing all the news. I actually thought, after the Jets season last year and the way it went, just as a Jet fan, I thought this off season was going to drag. I thought it was going to be slow. I actually think that it went faster than I think I thought it would have been. And now we're kind of here. The really dead period is over. Every team reports this week. Practices start this week. Back Together Sunday will be on Saturday. Or Back Together Saturday will be this weekend, rather. Back Together Weekend, actually, I think it's called, will be on Saturday. So Saturday and Sunday. So that'll be exciting. And football's here. I mean, the Hall of Fame game's 2 weeks away, I think, about that.
Yeah.
So we'll get live football on the TV screen here in just a little over a week and a half from now. So football's back. Football is really here. And we got a lot to discuss. How's it going, man?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, luckily for me, kind of had NCAA kind of speed some things up for me. So something to look forward to with NCAA coming out. Won't rant about it. But yeah, offseason went by pretty fast. Like I was kind of telling you off air. I'm doing an article looking at the training camp dates. I'm just like, we still got some time. It's the 21st. I mean, camp for a lot starts on the 23rd. So we're finally here. Preseason is here, like you said, in 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. So I'm excited. We got a few more shows. We're getting some real live action football back. Finally.
Yeah. Preseason here in just a couple weeks. Of course, the Hall of Fame game, and then shortly after that, you'll actually get into week one of the preseason. I think August 10th is like the first weekend of the preseason. 3 weeks from now about. So we're really, ramping it up, getting closer here. And I've always said it, some people really like draft season. Some people really like free agency. Outside of like the actual regular season playoffs, of course, actually the football that counts. I've always said it. Training camp to me is my favorite time of year in the NFL calendar year. The draft's fun, preparing for that, looking at all the prospects. Free agency's fun to see all the additions, what your team does. There's always a lot of optimism when you sign all these players and you're like, man, how the piece is going to fit and all the upgrades. But there's nothing like training camp. Everybody's, 0-0. Nobody has played a game. Knock on wood for your team. Everybody's usually healthy, so you're full strength. And all it is optimism. It's all optimism. And maybe that's just because, I guess some teams, of course, even if you go into the season with low expectations, you still have optimism during camp. And it's just an awesome time. So we're here. It's exciting, but there is a lot of other news to discuss today, and we'll get into a lot of the camp stuff and player performances. And of course, there's still a lot that needs to be ironed out from a actual off the field signings, trades perspective, with a couple wide receiver notes that we'll get into. We'll start with the biggest one, and that's Brandon Aiyuk. Officially requested a trade this week. It feels like this has been brewing for a while. He came out publicly and said, I'm going to play for the Steelers. And if not them, I'm going to play for the Commanders. And then whatever. He's basically like he's a free agent telling everybody where he's going to play. Even though he's still with the Niners, you see him wearing the Pittsburgh Pirates hat to the Niners meeting, waiting outside the facility. Just a very strange offseason for the 49ers, where during the draft, you heard reports that they would try and trade Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk. Then they said they're not going to trade him. And Brandon Aiyuk's still looking for the new contract. They said they weren't going to trade him. Brandon Aiyuk, they meet. Supposedly the meeting went well. Now he requests a trade just a couple days from camp. So before we kind of get into the other layers of this and what will actually happen at the end of all this, what was your reaction to this news?
I mean, I was surprised. I know we talked about this, I think, a few times where we talked about the Niners, where you kind of look from the outside of it all and you're just like, this is a team that is always, in the race, front runner almost every single year. They were just in the Super Bowl, and now they're trying to ship off their, arguably, you can say 2-3 when it comes to like kind of the tier of their best weapons. Obviously, McCaffrey being, the best option on the team. So it kind of makes no sense why they would want to ship either one off, and definitely not really understanding why they want to ship Aiyuk off. I mean, looking at how things went this year when Debo went down, Aiyuk was the glue for everything to kind of stick together, for everything to keep rolling, for Purdy to continue to build confidence kind of with the guys around him. So it's just a bit confusing. I think the whole situation is just messy from the jump. And it seems like everyone wants out, but it also kind of seems like in a way with whether it was Aiyuk or it was a Debo, the 49ers were prepared for this. We kind of look back like, why are you taking Ricky Pearsall with your first pick? And maybe this is why. So it kind of seems like it was an inevitable, and one of the two were leaving. It looks like it's going to be Aiyuk in this case. I think his time in San Fran is done.
Yeah, it's been a very, like you mentioned, just an odd offseason. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl. They didn't win. The second time they've lost to Kansas City since 2019. Mahomes has gotten the best of the Shanahan-led Niners, and this team was more talented than that 2020 team. I know we talked about this last week with the Super Bowl outs in a different year, but they were more talented when they faced Mahomes for the first time. Upgrades, almost significantly upgrades at other positions. But yeah, it's interesting. They go to the Super Bowl now. It's almost like, oh, we want to trade one of these guys, and that seems like that's set kind of a bad taste in Brandon Aiyuk's mouth. But why would you want to move on from any of these guys? You want to run it back. You know that Aiyuk, this is it for him, most likely. That he's probably not going to come back next season. They're probably going to move on and roll with just Debo and then see what they get out of Ricky Pearsall, who I really like. But I mean, do the Niners really think Ricky Pearsall, that's just from their perspective, right? Drafting Ricky Pearsall, good move, but Ricky Pearsall is not going to be most likely Brandon Aiyuk. And I really like Ricky Pearsall. I was one of the bigger Ricky Pearsall supporters coming out of Florida. Both of us were. But I mean, this is a guy in Aiyuk, 75 receptions last year, 1,342 yards, which was 7th in the NFL. He had 7 touchdowns. It was just a monster. And now he wants wide receiver number 1 money. And that's where things get interesting because it doesn't seem like the Niners are going to trade him. They don't, like, they've made that clear now after, which is just confusing. Right at the draft, we're open to trading these guys. Now you're not open to trading them. Where did this go wrong here? Right? Where did this kind of, if that makes sense, like how did this get to this point where you're going to trade them? Now you're not going to trade them in just a couple months.
I think it's for probably both parties, probably more Aiyuk though. I think it's the price tag. So I seen an article earlier where he wants 28 mil, which it kind of doesn't seem too crazy. I mean, there's 4 guys that is exceeding 30. Jefferson and Amon-Ra now there, AJ Brown, and I can't remember who's that 4th one that's getting, that above 30 mil range. And CeeDee Lamb's probably going to be the next one. So he will be another one to get that 30 mil range. So for Aiyuk to want 28, I mean, is it a little high? From a standpoint, kind of comparing him to the other guys, 2 less than like an Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're just like, I'm not really doing that. But when you look at how good Aiyuk has been, I mean, you can't really blame him because he's not overshadowed by Debo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey in that offense. He is a key piece, a key contributor to that offense. So in that instance, I don't see nothing wrong with giving him 28 mil because he's deserving of it. And like I just said, Debo went down. You put the receiving core on his back, and the offense looked the same exact as if Debo was out there on the field. Yes, it was only 2 games Debo missed, but like that's still a big deal to lose your number 1 receiver and still be on track how that offense was led by Aiyuk and McCaffrey. So it's really the asking price. I don't think 28 is too high, but if I guess the Niners feel like they can find what they want in Aiyuk and Pearsall for way cheaper, I just don't think it's an easy replacement like they think.
Yeah, definitely. And as you were mentioning with the 30+ million receivers, like you said, Jefferson, then it's AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, and Tyreek Hill. Those are your $30+ million receivers, which is obviously elite territory. I mean, arguably you're looking at probably all of those guys. Maybe that those might be your top 5 receivers in the NFL. I mean, I think CeeDee Lamb's probably top 5. He's not obviously on there. He will get paid though, like probably a top 5 receiver. Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, all probably top 5. I don't know. You could probably make a case that Maybe Justin Jefferson's up there. He's probably the best when he's healthy. AJ Brown, I think you can maybe make a case he's not top 5, but that's probably a different discussion for a different day.
Here's also a question though. So Devontae Adams, I believe base average salary is like $28 million a year.
Yeah, exactly,
so
28.
The question of why I understand the price tag is, am I paying Brandon Aiyuk Devontae Adams money?
Yeah.
And I think that might be how the 49ers is looking at it. I mean, again, no disrespect to Aiyuk, but he's not Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has been consistent. Aiyuk is not the same tier of receivers. So I kind of get it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, basically, if you pay Brandon Aiyuk 28 plus million, 28 or higher, you're saying he is in the same category as Justin Jefferson, or not, maybe not that. Justin Jefferson's different. That's like history making money. But he's in the same categories like AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill. I don't think you can say that. Now, there is one outlier here. Jalen Waddle's making $28.25 million, which is kind of a little bit of an outlier. Jalen Waddle's good, but I don't think he's that good. I would actually say Aiyuk's probably better than Waddle. So maybe Aiyuk's kind of looking at that too, like how some quarterbacks looked at the Daniel Jones situation. They said, oh, look at Daniel Jones. He's getting that amount of money. I want my payday. Aiyuk might be saying, look at Jalen Waddle. This guy's a number 2 receiver on a team that can't even win a playoff game. Not that that's all his fault, but Aiyuk's like, this is a team that just got to the Super Bowl. I'm the number 1. So it's an interesting situation. Look, it's messy. Anytime an elite receiver, a number 1 receiver, wants legitimate number 1 receiver money and the team doesn't want to give it to him, it gets ugly, especially when it's happening in late July. Now it feels like this has been brewing, but the fact that this is happening in late July is more of a problem because the season's a month and a half away and there's not much of a runway here for these two sides. Time's ticking. And then if Aiyuk, let's say, doesn't play this year, let's say he holds out and they don't trade him or they do trade him, you're relying on Deebo Samuel, which is he's good, right? But then Juwan Jennings, a rookie, and Ricky Pearsall, your wideout course takes a significant drop off. So do you think he ends up getting traded? Like if you had to, do you think they do end up doing? I don't think any. I think he'll end up playing out this year, kind of similar to what T. Higgins is doing in Cincy. Play out this year, and he's definitely out next season.
It's tough. I mean, I feel like he does get traded because there are teams who are to trade for him, like Washington, like Pittsburgh, and like the Patriots that kind of are just like, look, we have the money to pay you. You instantly make our receiving core way better. Let's go ahead and pay you. And from Aiyuk's standpoint, he understands that. So it's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave if you're not going to play me. But also kind of to the point that you're making where if he does hold out, could he even hold out? Which that would hurt the 49ers in a way because you lose a big piece, but also don't have to worry about paying him. But also for Aiyuk, I mean, 2025, he is a free agent. So does he really want to risk it? Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. It's either I can risk paying 24 and get hurt and not get an extension whatsoever, or I can sit out all of 24, be a free agent in 25. But are those teams going to have that same eagerness to go out and get him? If somebody like Javon Baker, let's say for the Patriots, kind of emerges into something great, are the same teams that's willing to trade for him now willing to like pay that price? Because by then also CeeDee Lamb gets an extension. Maybe Tyreek Hill gets another extension. Maybe Devontae Adams gets another extension. And then that price continues. So after that, it's just like, well, I don't know if we're going to pay you. At this time, you're going to be 27. I got a 23-year-old who we just drafted. Let's stick with the youth. So it's kind of a tough situation for both sides. But I don't think he's playing for the Niners this year. I don't see it happening. He's going to be somewhere. Let's hope not Washington. Go to Pittsburgh, perfectly fine. You can go deal with him in the AFC. I don't want him in Washington, but it's not going to be for the Niners. He's not playing for them.
You make a great point, though, about that. Like, if Javon Baker, even a Jalen Polk for New England emerges, and they're like, yeah, we don't need you because in 2 years from now, we're going to have to pay Polk or Baker after their year 1. We're going to have to pay them wide receiver 1 money down the road. And his price tag is going to probably go up because he's going to see CeeDee Lamb get the contract. Like you said, maybe Tyreek Hill or even Devontae, get their payday or, build off of what they're already making now. I mean, I think, and 2, he kind of risks it. Like he could bet on himself and play this year. and then boost his value. And let's say the Niners go and win the Super Bowl and he
That's
wins
true.
Super Bowl MVP. He could boost his value. He could also hurt his value. He could risk injury, right? Like you said. So there is that part of it. If he sits out, I think that would do more harm, like you said, than good, because we've seen players sit out. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Le'Veon Bell, but I witnessed it, right? Le'Veon Bell sat out, didn't play the year, came to the Jets, was a shell of himself. A little bit of a different situation. Aiyuk's 26 years old. He would be 27 next year. Le'Veon Bell was already had, what, 8 years under his belt? 6 years, right? Something like that. I mean, Aiyuk's young. Le'Veon Bell was near the end of his prime. So he was on the way out anyway. But, that in the back of your mind, if a player misses an entire year, you always kind of question you always question the player coming off an injury. You would question him coming off a holdout. So it'll be interesting. Like you said, Pittsburgh, New England, those are some of the ones we know. New England actually offered a trade. They denied it. Washington, of course. I don't think the Giants would go after him. I know there's been some articles I've seen that would say, because they need a number one wideout, even with the addition of Malik Neighbors. He's a rookie. Aiyuk's proven already. A team I think that could go after him, and I don't want this to happen, would be the Bills. That's a team I could see. And I don't want it to happen. I don't think it'll end up happening, but I think the Bills are putting too much stock into what they have right now when everybody in America knows that it's probably not going to work. And I think once camp starts, when the Bills see that it's not working, or maybe Keon Coleman's not going to fill Stephon Diggs' shoes in year one, which shouldn't happen. I mean, Diggs is one of the best receivers in football. Keon Coleman's not going to be top 5 in year one. Then maybe they could deal for him. But other than that, that's probably the list. And I don't think the Jets either. I know some Jets fans saw this. No, the Jets have to pay Garrett Wilson. They got to pay Sauce Gardner. They're not going to be able to pay Brandon Aiyuk. They got their own contract situation with Hassan Reddick right now that they got to deal with. It's not happening. Devontae Adams, I think, might happen. Brandon Aiyuk's not going to happen. The Jets aren't going to trade for him and give him a new contract. They've got that own problem right now with Reddick. So that's what I'll say on that.
To your Bills point, I mean, what if Keon Coleman does step in, have a great camp? Obviously not a Stephon Diggs-like camp. Buffalo sees that, and they're just like, all right, this is a great number one. How about we take some attention off of him? Let's go get us Brandon Aiyuk, and you throw the pair together. I mean, it is a possibility. I mean, you can never be too good at the wide receiver position. So if Buffalo kind of does have a lot of faith in Keon Coleman, but the other guys just aren't cutting it, I can see it happening, especially if you want to buy back the hope of Bills fans. That's another thing, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If they get Brandon Aiyuk, it would be Super Bowl back on, instant replacement for Stephon Diggs. Now, the only thing I could think of, and you're looking so far down the road, but I mean, who even knows where we are 3 years from now with Josh Allen, right? But if you pay Brandon Aiyuk right now, if the Bills get Brandon Aiyuk, and let's say give him $30 million, they trade for him right now, give him $30 million a year, 4 years, or whatever the case may be. Let's say Keon Coleman lives up to the hype. 2 years from now, he's going to probably want to get paid. So then you kind of run into that situation. I don't think they would look that far down the road, because who knows what Keon Coleman's value is. Keon Coleman might be a good receiver. He might not be Brandon Aiyuk level. He might be serviceable, but I don't know. I think if you're the Bills, you probably do it. Yeah, like you said, you can never have enough talent, but
Jefferson is going in what year? Is this year 4, year 5? Something around there at 19 to 20 season always. Like why we're talking about the Super Bowl, always seems to throw me off. But I mean, if Jefferson waited that long.
Yeah, he did. It was 2020, came in COVID year. Yeah, so he waited 4 years. Coleman wouldn't be, yeah.
Yeah, I think with Coleman, that'd probably be something, maybe not saying the similar situation, but something like similar to what Dallas is doing with CD now. You kind of drag it out and you wait, pick up the 5th-year option, and it's either going to be like, hey, extend me right now, or you can franchise tag me next year, but you're going to owe me a big chunk of money for this 1 year. So, it's most likely probably going to be that with Keon Coleman. I don't see 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting situation with just with Aiyuk, and we'll say I don't know. I don't know if he's. I have this feeling he's not going to get dealt. It just feels like the Niners are so dead set on not dealing him. But look, if there's an offer that comes across that's so good they can't pass up, and maybe they hope Brandon Aiyuk can, or not Brandon Aiyuk, Jawan Jennings can pull out a Super Bowl performance for all 17 weeks this year. Maybe that'll help, but we'll see. Anyway, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb. We can move on to him now. And Amari Cooper, potential holdouts here as camp approaches. CeeDee wants his money. It looks like the Cowboys are prioritizing CeeDee, kind of putting Dak on the not afterburner, but they're kind of just putting him off to the side for right now. It'll be interesting. Camp of them starts this week, so all of these guys will really know here in the coming days if they're there or not. What are your thoughts? We'll start with CeeDee, then we'll move to Amari Cooper. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys contract situations?
I don't see why he wasn't paid during the season, or at least this was in talks during the season. It should have been wrapped up. I mean, we're talking about someone who was top 3 in all receiving categories throughout the year. First in receptions, I believe it's third in touchdowns, second in receiving yards. I mean, he had the best season as a Dallas Cowboy receiver, like in franchise history. So it kind of feels like they waited too long, and it actually for CeeDee, I guess that's to his benefit because, like we just said, he's seen a contract to Jefferson, and you see AJ Brown during the season, you've seen Amon Ross. So now you kind of compare yourself to those guys, and you're just like, look, he got 30, I want 32, which I think would be a good price tag for CeeDee. Like, I don't see him exceeding 35. I don't see him getting at 35. Like you said, Jefferson, that reset the market forever. I don't think no one's topping that. So CeeDee, I mean, it doesn't feel like he bet on himself, but in a way, it's like he kind of bet on himself because he knew his time was coming up, and you know the way to do that, you just have the best season of Indy Cowboys receiver ever. So hopefully they get that done. I don't see nothing wrong with them kind of pushing Dak to the back burner. I know you said you don't want to say it that way, but that's basically what it is. It was all Dak throughout the season, and now there's like, Dak, you got to wait. Let's lock down CeeDee. So, I mean, that's essential for the success of Dak. So if I'm Dallas, Jerry Jones, I mean, get that contract done before anyone else receives any extensions. You focus on Dak, you focus on Parsons. Don't continue to let this kind of roll into the regular season.
Yeah, and I think too, like Dak kind of gives off. I know he commented about a month ago. He said, "What was it? He doesn't care about the money or doesn't care about the contract."
Yeah, not trying to be the highest paid, just
yeah,
want to help the team win.
Yeah, so I think too, and this isn't anything on knock on CeeDee. CeeDee's I really like CeeDee Lamb. He's been one of my favorite players in the NFL. I loved him coming out of college. You know, hindsight 2020 would have been nice if the Jets took him at that year instead of taking the bust left tackle that we drafted in Becton. But in terms of CeeDee Lamb, nothing against him, but I think he's also pushing more than Dak to get his money. I think Dak is probably a little bit more okay with playing out this year. Like you said, CeeDee's kind of already bet on himself. He's one of the elite receivers in football. Not that Dak isn't, but we know how wide receivers are. They tend to be a little bit more like, I want my money and I want my money now. I've played 4 years. I'm coming off the best season of my life. And 135 receptions, like you said, all top 3. First in receptions, second in yards, third in touchdowns. I mean, you think about it, you look at his numbers, he's literally increased every single year in every single statistical category. Like, he's just been on this upward trajectory, right? Year 1, played 16 games, 935 yards, 74 receptions. Year 2, 79 receptions, 1,102 yards. Year 3, 107 receptions, 1,359 yards. Last year, 135 for 1,700 yards. Touchdowns as well, 5, 6, 9, 12. So, like, every year he's just been on this upward trajectory looking for that big deal. You know, ideally, you think he gets done soon, and then what, you think Parsons and Dak are season afterwards?
Yeah, I think that's how it would be. But I'm gonna get into that second. I just want to go back. In a way, I kind of disagree with that you say CeeDee is kind of pushing it, and I think just because perfectly what you just said of where he's increased every single year. I mean, 2020, you're drafted in, and you're kind of that second afterthought after Amari Cooper, and you perform so well, and Dallas has so much confidence in you. They traded Amari Cooper, and they're just like, it is what it is. And then even this year, which he didn't produce, but Michael Gallup, who was another one that's supposed to kind of step in and have a bigger role, and CD performed so well, you kind of get Michael Gallup kicked to the curb. Not really. Again, he didn't produce.
Yeah.
The expectation for you to come in and be wide receiver one, we shipped off Amari Cooper for a bag of chips, and it's paid off. So with CD, man, I don't blame him. I mean, get your money. Again, you knew you're up for an extension. You knew what the market was going to look like. And how do you handle that? You just have the best season ever. No, like, and just with CD, he's just a guy. It seems like to me, he just shows up and he balls out. Like, he's never really in the media, not really a problem in the locker room. You don't hear much about him. All you do is see him on Sunday doing this, first down celebrations. And he's he's a likable guy. But I do think they're going to get CD done, and then you worry about Dak and then go Parsons. That's kind of the order I think I would go in. I mean, you want that wide receiver quarterback duo locked up. That's essential. With Parsons, I think he has another year before he needs kind of his extension, but he's been so good, you might as well go ahead and get it done. Yeah. So CD, Dak, Parsons, they got to get it done. They cannot let any of these guys, and I know this is kind of off topic, but still on topic. You can't let any of these guys kind of bet on themselves and have a proven type year, because I mean, that's what happened with Dak in 2020 and 21, the year he broke his ankle. And then they were so bad that Dallas had no other choice but to overpay him, which I don't think he was overpaid, to each his own. But that kind of bet on himself, ended up getting hurt, how we were saying with Aiyuk, broke the ankle, and Dallas is just like, this team is not going anywhere. This is the FCS team with Dak Prescott. Let's give him a big chunk of money. And you don't want that. Again, so you don't want CD to get hurt or even have a better year. Same with Michael Parsons, get hurt or have a better year. The price tag goes up. So they got to just get it done, like, now. I'll start a GoFundMe just to get those guys done. It's just that serious.
Yeah. It's, a lot of these teams, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the Yankees core four all those years during those 90s dynasties teams. It's similar. The Jets are kind of going through. It's in a similar situation, a little bit different than the Cowboys, because Dak obviously has already gone a contract and he's much older than what the Jets are dealing with. CeeDee Lamb obviously looking for his first deal. Same thing with Parsons. But the Jets, the 2022 draft class with Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson. At the end of this year, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner will probably get deals. I don't know if Breece will ever get a deal, but because the running backs, again, are just in a very weird spot in the NFL today. But a lot of fans, myself included, are kind of pushing for, it'll be at the end of this year, but Sauce to get his money right away, Garrett Wilson to get his money right away, lock those guys up, because you want to lock up your core four guys. Cowboys are similar. Those are kind of your core three guys. You have your 1-2 punch quarterback, wide receiver, which is arguably the best 1-2 punch in the NFL at that spot. Now, I know you want to say Mahomes, Kelsey, that's fine, but actual wide receiver and quarterback, CeeDee Lamb and Dak has been one of the elite combos since obviously CeeDee Lamb, like you said, has taken over as the number one since the Cooper trade. So you obviously want to lock those guys up. And I mean, I think it's just, I don't know. The Cowboys this is going to be a very interesting year for Dallas. Like, it's going to be one of the most, because then you have the Mike McCarthy situation as well, where you wonder with his contract, what is his future? What do you think? I'm curious. Like, do you think this is it? Like, do you think they have to win the Super? If they don't win the Super Bowl, he's done.
I don't think so. It's very tough kind of direct, because on one side of it, you look at it and you're just like, well, this team has went 12-5 every year, getting to the playoffs, has won a division twice. Dak's had an MVP type year. CeeDee Lamb, all pro type. I mean, John Blank broke interception record for pick sixes in the season. So you look at all the great that kind of his teams are doing and the players under his philosophy, I guess you can say. But then you also look at it, you're like, okay, 12-5 is great, but let's look at the postseason.
Yeah.
If sending Brady to retirement can kind of outweigh losing to the Niners twice, then maybe he stays. But I don't want to say Super Bowl or bust for McCarthy, but 12-5 and a first round exit is not going to be good enough. I'm thinking it's going to have to at least be the divisional round. And if they lose in the divisional round, it's going to have to be like a game where it's just a close game and it wasn't really on the hands of the players kind of playing bad, which in that case is the head coach not having them prepared. So it's kind of tough. There's a lot of gray area, but I would not be surprised if Mike McCarthy is not the head coach for 2025.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I agree with you. And it's kind of the similar thing the Jets are going through. Like, I think it depends on how Dallas would get to the divisional round, who they beat in the wild card round. Like if Dallas, and then how they get knocked out, let's say in the divisional round. And I don't know. Let's say the Falcons, right? Say the Falcons go 9-8, sneak into the playoffs, and the Cowboys beat them in the wild card round, but then get smoked by, I don't know,
the Niners.
Detroit, the Niners, let's say. He's probably out, or let's say you clinch a first round bye, you get to the divisional round, you lose in the divisional round, you don't even win a playoff game, he's definitely out. So I think that's kind of the same thing with the Jets. Is like it depends on who you beat in the wild card round and how you lose in the divisional round. If Dallas goes to Santa Clara, loses 38-35 to the Niners, is that you really going to fire him for a 3-point loss? I mean, it would sting. I think he's 100% safe probably to get to the title game, but you never know with Jerry Jones. You never know. He's we know he's getting old. He wants to win. If McCarthy loses in the divisional round this year, he's going to, I don't know what he'll do. I mean, he's got the script, right? He's got the script, the scribbles.
Apparently, that script is botching all the contract extensions you need to get done to start. So, But hey, at least you'll sell more Zeke kind of name and liberties. Now you switch to 15. So, it's all about this, not spending it.
But I forgot about Zeke.
Zeke. To each his own, to each his own.
Zeke is redemption tour.
I hope so. I mean, 1,100 yards out of Zeke is a great year. 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, let's say. That's a great year.
Yeah, I agree. And, it'll be interesting. Anyway, move on now. Amari Cooper, also similar situation. Kind of the holdout entering camp. Obviously, Amari Cooper, we know what he was able to do last season. 1,250 yards, 72 receptions, 5 touchdowns. He did it with a whole plethora of quarterbacks, Flacco, PJ Walker, Deshaun Watson. So dealt with some of these same quarterback issues that we've seen other receivers across the NFL deal with. And he went out and put up 1,200 yards, finished 10th in the NFL in yards, and him and Flacco were one of the most dynamic 1-2 punches in the NFL. I mean, he had that crazy game against the Texans where he went off for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a couple big games with Deshaun Watson. So just found a way to get it done no matter who was out there. But the contract situation also holding up here. What are your thoughts on Amari Cooper? It's crazy. He's already entering his age 30 season. It really is wild. It feels like just yesterday was when he was being dealt to the Cowboys from Oakland. And now here he is in Cleveland, 7 years later? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of spoiled a little what I was about to say. There got to be a picture somewhere of Amari Cooper kind of photoshopped in the Cowboys jersey. I hope I can find it. But, it's crazy. I mean, to think about he's on his third team at 30, which isn't a knock on him because he's been productive everywhere he went. I mean, if I'm correct, in 2014, he's on the Raiders and they're about to go to the Super Bowl. And now we're talking about you being on Cleveland with, I don't know, it's crazy. Just thing with Cooper, I know he wants an extension, which he is deserving because he is playing off the extension that he signed in 2020. And similar to Aiyuk, I wonder if it's the price tag between the two. But in this situation, it's kind of different because if you're Cleveland, I'm not paying a 30 receiver, 4 or 5 years worth of contract. Maybe Cleveland wants something around 2 or 3. So it's the years, is it kind of the base salary? But like you said, Cooper kind of shuffled through 5 quarterbacks last year, 1,250 yards, and that's with 2 games missed. So, and he still led the team in receiving. So that's kind of a big thing. But if Cleveland kind of feels, because, they traded for Jerry Jeudy. So if Cleveland feels that they're better off without Cooper and can trade for him, and Jeudy and Elijah Moore, obviously Njoku in that mix, if the 3 of them can kind of leap pat and get them to where they still plan on going, then Cleveland might trade him, but that's a fantasy dream. That's not happening. I mean, they're going to sign him. Not a big contract, but he's deserving of it. I think Cleveland will give him that.
Yeah, Cleveland's front office, I think, would be very dumb to approach this any other way than just get him a deal. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper to me is that receiving room. Like Jerry Jeudy to me doesn't move a needle much. And even Elijah Moore, he doesn't move a needle much. He doesn't. And I'm not just hating on Elijah Moore because he blew an F-bomb at Mike LaFleur when he was with the Jets. I'm not doing that, but it's like he hasn't lived up to the expectations. I mean, he only had 640 yards last year. This is kind of he's at best a slot guy, nothing more than that. Jeudy is, it's interesting. I don't really know what Judy's had a very interesting start to his career. The quarterback situation hasn't been favorable, and you wonder if that's why some of these numbers have been down. But then again, this is a first-round pick. Even if you're a first-round pick and you're not dealing with good quarterback play, you should be able to manage and still put up better numbers than what he's put up. I mean, he hasn't had a year yet where he's hit over 1,000 yards. And he only had 758 yards last year with Russell Wilson, who isn't great, but he did have that stretch during the win streak where he was playing pretty well. I don't know. Jerry Jeudy's one of the more interesting players this year, but yeah, like you said, the point is you got to get a deal done with Amari Cooper. If something goes terribly wrong and Cooper's not playing this year, right, or somewhere else, you're then looking at a offense that goes from a dynamic 1-2 punch out running back and wide receiver of Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper with, David Njoku as well, who kind of took off last year as a tight end in a way. Had a very, very productive season, especially when Flacco came in, was used a lot by Flacco. I think 4 of his 6 touchdowns that he scored were from Flacco. So very productive player. You like him out of the tight end spot. If you move Cooper, you're like, is Jerry Jeudy really your number 1? Then Elijah Moore kind of steps up as your number 2, and realistically, he's probably more of just a slot guy. And of course, you have Chubb coming off the torn ACL, which will be interesting to see how he starts the year. But the biggest thing to me still with Cleveland is Watson. What Deshaun Watson are we going to get? That's the biggest thing. I don't know.
I know we're like broken records when we say just they can get 70%, and it's always that 70 number for whatever reason. If they can get 70% of what he was in Houston, I mean, is actually, that would benefit them. And what I was about to say next was like, is that even good enough though in that division with the defenses in the division? You actually need a full Houston like Deshaun Watson, but I mean, the dog pound goes as Watson goes. So I know we kind of joked about it and said it quite a while ago, but don't be surprised if James Winston is the starter for the Browns by like week 9 or 10. I mean, it's a possibility.
Hey, I'm all for Jameis Winston balling
eating
out.
W's.
Yeah, eating W's.
Cleveland.
I feel like the NFL sometimes is better when Jameis Winston's just eating W's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, with Deshaun, it is crazy. They're paying Deshaun Watson all that money, and he's played 12 games and has thrown 14 touchdown passes. That is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. It really feels like that 2020 Deshaun Watson season was so long ago, where he threw for 33 touchdowns that huge year, even though they stunk. They won 4 games. He was the king of garbage time, though. He was the king of garbage time. But, I mean, man, and like we said, 70%, 80%. That's kind of the thing, too, with Rodgers that I've talked about a lot this year is like, if the Jets get 70% of Rodgers, they're going to make the playoffs. If the Browns get 70% of what Deshaun Watson has been, they get 70% of what Deshaun Watson was in 2020 before he came there, they will, they'll be one of the best teams in the AFC. But if you get an injury-prone 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, only 1,100 yards in 6 games, Deshaun Watson, well, might as well start warming up.
Tank for Shador.
Winston. Yeah, tank for Shador. You could.
Wow.
I just they're just how much of a leash you think they give Watson? That's the good question that I think, because let's say he goes out there, right? Well, let's look at their schedule. They play Dallas. Okay, so they do. I forgot. They open up with you guys. And then Jacksonville, Giants, Raiders, Washington. Okay, that's if Watson doesn't come out of there, if you don't come out of that stretch 3-2 at the very least, he's got to be benched, right? If you come out of there, all right, let's say you lose to Dallas. You should beat Jacksonville, and you beat in New York, Vegas, Washington. I mean, if Daniel Jones comes into your own building and he outplays Watson, he's got to be benched. If you come out of there 2-4, because then you go through a stretch of Philly, Cincy, Baltimore, Chargers by New Orleans. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the leash on him. He's got to have a short leash. I mean, they can't, if they're losing games 17-13 and Watson's throwing for like 180 yards and a 56 completion percentage, no way you could keep throwing him out there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this is the case for Cleveland, where it's like, look, we threw crazy money at you. So last year you were hurt. It kind of is what it is, and you kind of had all the legal stuff going on, just mentally. So like this year you figure this out, and if you don't figure this out, we're gonna wipe our hands clean of you, because that stretch you got to be 4-2. And that other loss being Jacksonville, maybe, because Jacksonville just had a great game and Trevor Lawrence is like a revenge tour. Anything worse than 4-2, I mean, Watson's on the hot seat, and I think you kind of go into that next stretch. You're saying Cincy, Baltimore, they might give him 1.5 games a day, and they lose one of them, and the other one they're kind of probably getting blowed out. He doesn't look good. I mean, I think they're going to pull him. They're going to have to.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, if Trevor Lawrence listened to us and is now on a revenge tour, maybe run into that. But other than that, yeah, I mean, you have to pull the trigger, because look, if you have Amari Cooper, right? Let's say he's still there, which I think we all agree will. And let's say Chubb's having a good season and Amari Cooper's still managing to have a good year. You can't ruin that season. You can't ruin those guys' primes in a way. I mean, Chubb's in his prime. Cooper's nearing the end of his prime, but he's still got a lot left. You can't ruin those guys. And then you also can't ruin one of the league's best defenses. If you're going out there and putting up 13 points on offense a week, it's the same situation you run into last year that we saw with the Jets, where they were allowing under 20 points per game. I think over the last 2 years, if the Jets just averaged 20 points per game as an offense, they would have been, I forget their record. It would have been something crazy. But I will say this, though. Through all of this with the Browns, a ton of credit goes to Kevin Stefanski. He has managed, and this organization was a dump for a while, right? They were a disaster. Hugh Jackson years, tried Baker Mayfield outside of the 1 year. They got to the divisional round, never really worked. But man, Stefanski has found a way. There is not many coaches in the NFL. We've seen it. We saw it last year. There's not many coaches in the NFL that could deal with the quarterback play he's been given and still put a good product on the field. And he was able to do that last year with Joe Flacco coming off his couch halfway through the season. Just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. You know, the NFL scriptwriters have really been back-to-back years. They have 2022, we had Jeff Saturday come off his couch to coach the Colts. And then last year, Joe Flacco come off his couch. Who's coming off the couch this year?
Not out the couch, but out the broadcast booth. And that's gonna be Mr. Brady.
You think? Wow.
The Raiders? I don't know. Just seems like or if they want to kind of get deep in the bag, you go get Andrew Luck for whatever reason. Andrew Luck goes to, I don't know, the Giants.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
Limitless possibilities.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. I feel like every year Andrew Luck's name gets tossed around.
Yeah.
Every year it gets tossed around. I remember last year, even when Rodgers went down, I remember the next morning, I was listening to a couple Jets podcasts, and I was sitting and I'm thinking, like, okay, who's a quarterback that we could bring in? Because I'm still in shock of Rodgers. And I'm like, yeah, Andrew Luck. I'm like, how many more years is Andrew Luck's name going to be in the conversation? It never will. He'll probably never play, but every year a quarterback goes down, everyone's always like, oh, well, Andrew Luck's still out there. It's always Brady as well. I think Brady, he's going to have to probably do like a 3 good years in the booth. Even like now, people are still like, yeah, he might come back. If the Raiders need him, he'll come back.
Mean, if, the NFL, if they want a WWE like, type of script, you got Brady calling a Raiders game, Aiden O'Connell goes down, Gardner Minshew's inactive for the week, and they're just like, who are we going to throw out there? Brady doesn't come back to the booth from halftime. He's suited up. I mean, they can make it happen. They can make it happen.
That would be crazy. It is true, though. It's just every year. I mean, even Matt Ryan, he's another name. Matt Ryan's a name. Ryan. He hasn't officially retired, but I remember even last year, Matt Ryan was a name got brought up. Those guys are always going to be in the conversation, especially if we get a year like we have this last year where a ton of quarterbacks are going down and you're running out of backups, essentially.
I mean, there's one more to throw into that mix.
He is so washed. Matt Ryan is so washed. He can't move.
Throw Cam Newton in that mix of names. That's another one that is about to be the new version of just go grab him. And it's going to be, they're going to bring all the clips of Cam Newton during the Super Bowl run. And it's like, oh, brother. He's
going to be like, I'm back. It's one thing to be back against the Cardinals. It's another thing to be back against any other team.
Yeah. I mean, after that Cardinals game, though, we really thought Cam was back. We're just like, this guy was, I don't know, he was in a lab or something. They kind of just gave him a winter soldier serum, and Cam is Cam. And then after that, Cam was not really Cam.
Still, to me, one of the strangest NFL like marriages, I guess if you want to call it ever, was Cam Newton in New England. One of these strangest, like, it was just so strange. Like, him and Bill Belichick for that season was just so strange. It really was. Two guys that you would never ever think would be a coach quarterback. It's just,
well, even then, to even further our point, I feel like every time Cam is back with a new team or whatever, new coach, whatever situation, he has that one great game where you're just like, all right, the Patriots are back, Cam is back, and that's when they went to Seattle and they kind of went down to the wire. You're just like, this team's gonna be crazy, and everything after that was just like completely downhill.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny is they had that. Yeah, they won week 1 against Miami. Then they had that close game against Seattle on the road. Now, it was COVID, so there was no fans. But still, Seattle going on the road. I believe Seattle, I think they made the playoffs that year. I think that was the last year of like Russ being actually decent. They go toe-to-toe with them, and then they beat the Raiders. And then after that, everything just collapsed. They like lost 3 or 4 straight, and it was a disaster. And they finished 7-9, I think, which was not good. But anyway. Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. Watch out. If we get that right, jeez.
We're from the future if we get that right. I mean, we've already called enough. We're pretty good at this.
Yeah. If that happens, jeez. I don't even want to know what would need to happen to have like just 2 of those guys, like Andrew Luck and Cam Newton under center in like week 12. I mean, there would have to be so much go wrong for a team. I would honestly feel bad. I would feel bad if anybody has to sit down and watch 1 snap of Matt Ryan. I mean, that guy is about as washed as they come.
And for that to happen, you need obviously every quarterback on the roster to get hurt. At least your first and second string.
The only team
squad quarterback is just not ready.
The only team I could think that would starter goes down right away. Go to Matt Ryan would be the Broncos. Exactly. Because I think I would take Matt Ryan over Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham.
I knew it.
We both knew it at the same time. If Bo Nix would to go down, they are not even talking to Zach or Stidham. Sean Payton is calling up Matt Ryan on the sideline.
Yeah, I think Sean Payton might already be kind of, maybe he has high blood pressure. Maybe he doesn't. If he doesn't want it, go call Matt Ryan. Do not sit through Zach Wilson. That that would stress you out to.
No.
I
Don't
mean,
even
remember
or
when
sit
Sean
'em.
Payton kind of retired and like was coaching Little League football? Zach
Yeah.
Wilson might lead him to do that again.
Maybe.
That's gonna be tough.
He'd be like he'd be having like flashbacks. He's like, am I coaching Little League or am I coaching the NFL? As they're down like 31-0 to the Raiders.
Probably gonna pull the Vontae Davis and just be like, you know what? Halftime comes in.
Yeah,
You know
halftime
what?
retire.
This just isn't for me anymore. And just see Sean Payton leaving Mile High Stadium. Oh, would that be something?
And then Matt Ryan walking in as he's leaving. Oh man,
would that be?
I really do
That
not
would
know what
be
to expect
something.
from Denver this year. I really don't.
That team is gonna be so bad. I mean, if you're Denver, I don't know. It's not I doubt he does it. I would say you might want to start kind of getting certain jerseys kind of shipped away half off rack and get Shador Sanders jerseys. Get that number 2. Keep them in Colorado because Denver's gonna be so bad this year. But it's like, do you go get Shador after you got Bo Nix? Probably not. So are we talking Travis Hunter to
Carson
Denver?
Beck?
You could. I mean,
Carson
he's
Beck.
He's not that great either. I mean,
no. This quarterback class is outside of like Shador. It's
Jackson Dart, maybe. That's the only 2 I can think of. And even Shador, I mean, he's probably spend more time flexing his Rolex like in training camp than learning the playbook. So I don't know. I just feel bad for them, right? But I know we say this every single time. You always got the Nuggets.
Yep. Definitely. They do. Gotta give them you gotta give them that. Anyway, let's move on. Giants, Hard Knocks. First year of the offseason, Hard Knocks. Been a lot of fun to watch. See it all unfold, especially for the Giants, a team that kind of went into the offseason, after last, 2 years ago, you go to the playoffs, you win a playoff game on the road. Of course, you get blown out by the Eagles, who then ended up getting, of course, losing in a nail biter to the Chiefs that year. Last year was a huge disappointment for the Giants. You had injuries with Daniel Jones. You had the couple-week Tommy DeVito mania, which was kind of a crazy time in the NFL. It was like that middle portion of the season. You had the Tommy DeVito stuff, and then you had the Taylor Swift stuff going on like at the same time. It was like the Swift stuff, Tommy DeVito going like head to head, and it was just the media was kind of crazy. And the Giants, I think at one point, I think they got to like 5-8 with DeVito. They were still in the chance for the playoffs, and then they ended up blowing it after that. But yeah, so you had the DeVito mania, stuff like that, with Daniel Jones out. But mostly last year was bad. You go into this season, the biggest question was Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones had the torn ACL. You were kind of wondering what the Giants were going to do with the quarterback. And I will say this. I will start with that. I want to start with the quarterback because I want to say something now before I forget to say it later. Every single year, I feel like the Giants, every single season, every year, are they going to draft a quarterback? Is Daniel Jones the answer? This guy has been in the league for 5 years. He's entering his 6th season, and we still don't even know if he's the answer. We still don't even know. And the Giants don't even know. And they invested $40 million in him. And it's clear that this team doesn't even trust him because they had multiple interviews with Drake May. They'd interview with Jaden Daniels. Like they actively tried to trade up. Daniel Jones has had one of the strangest careers so far. This guy has been in the NFL for 5 years. How much you talk about like how long of a leash Deshaun Watson has, right? How much longer of a leash does Daniel Jones have? Every single year. Oh, is he the guy? Right? New York talk radio around here. Is Daniel Jones the guy? Hard Knocks. Is he the guy coming off the torn ACL? If this doesn't happen, if he struggles, does Drew Lock take over? I mean, this team still doesn't know what to do. And then they let Saquon Barkley walk without anything. So what have been your thoughts on the whole Daniel Jones situation? Because I know you had some things you wanted to discuss here. And we'll show you some clips. One of the clips was Drake May. We'll also show you some more clips on Saquon. But The Giants have made a $40 million investment with Daniel Jones, and they still don't even know. And he's like getting the keys to the franchise still. And that's the problem. That's the thing where, and I know, I know that they won the playoff game, and I get all that. But if Daniel Jones has a average year this year, right? We're gonna have the same conversation again. Let's say the Giants win 9 games. They missed the playoffs. Daniel Jones has an average year. They're gonna go draft a quarterback, or are they gonna say, "Oh, he had an okay season"? Again, it was all the problems around him. The offensive line wasn't very good again. Let's run it back. Like, we've entering year 7. I mean, Brian Dable's job's not going to last forever. So, what have been your thoughts on the Daniel Jones situation?
I mean, to be honest, you kind of just set me up perfectly for what I was about to say, because they don't have to worry about going 9-8 and running it back, because that leash to your question is very short, at least to what I'm thinking. I mean, you've been in the league for 5 years and you haven't figured it out. And I mean, we understand, the offensive line hasn't been the best and the receivers haven't been the best, but at some point, like, you got to do something. And like you said, they aren't even that confident. And when we're talking off air, as I'm watching Hard Knocks on episode 3, they're kind of going through process of the combine, and it's not, no one in the building is really saying, like, looking at receivers, for example. Okay, well, if we draft Neighbors, is him and Daniel Jones connection going to be good? If we go get Worthy, how will him and Daniel Jones pair? It's whoever the quarterback is throwing to Neighbors, whoever's going to be throwing to Worthy, whoever's handing the ball off to Saquon. So they're not 100% confident in Daniel Jones. I mean, especially when, like you said, they were even considering, like, McCarthy at a point. It was a good chance they were going to draft a quarterback, and it didn't happen. So with Daniel Jones, I mean, this year's it. This is it. If he get it figured out now, he will be elsewhere next year. I think the only thing that possibly could save him is, like we just said, the quarterback class is kind of so dreadful. Outside of Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart, you're kind of just like, who else? Who else are you willing to kind of bring in and start a franchise around and rebuild with? Other than that, I mean, the only other one, maybe Jalen Daniels from Kansas right now, but there's no one that you really can look at right now. It's like, that guy is definitely going to be the answer. He definitely can do it. If Daniel Jones doesn't figure it out, he's done. And I kind of feel bad for him. I mean, we talked about it when we talked about the division. When you got to play Dallas and Philly twice with those defenses, and you don't have the offensive firepower to keep up with those offenses, you kind of are out of luck. But then again, you're a $40 million guy. And believe it or not, until Dak is an extension, Dak and Daniel Jones make the same exact money. Look what Dak has done with it. Look what Daniel Jones has done with it. So he will not be a New York Giant next year. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you make a great point. That's why the Giants put themselves in such a tough spot. Is next year's quarterback class is very underwhelming up to this point, right? And that's not the end all be all, right? It's July, and we've seen in past years quarterback classes that get hyped up an entire year in advance completely just bomb out. I mean, look at 2021. That class was hyped up. Trevor Lawrence leading the way, generational talent. Zach Wilson, he best arm strength we've seen come out of college since Patrick Mahomes. All these great things. Look how that has happened. The best quarterback to come out of that class was Trevor Lawrence, and he's a little bit above average. Is that crazy to say? I don't know. I don't want to go down that path again. We've done enough crushing at Trevor Lawrence, but he's not elite. He's certainly not elite. He's certainly not anywhere near Mahomes. He's certainly not anywhere near a Dak, a Joe Burrow, a Lamar, an Allen, a Stroud. I mean, Stroud, I think, has already jumped Trevor in just 1 year in his same division. He's not even the best quarterback in his division. I don't even think I don't want to go down that road of Trevor Lawrence, but if Anthony Richardson has a really good year, you can make the case that he's better. So don't want to crush Trevor Lawrence too much. But my point is, who knows, maybe next year's quarterback class pans out great. Like you said, Shedeur Sanders is going to be the hyped up, not even just because he's the most talented, but because of the name. That'll hype him up, right? Colorado is almost gets the media attention as an NFL team. That's how popular they've been with college football and the way it has changed and what Dion has done to that school and that program, which, by the way, I've really looking forward to seeing what they do this year. It's been pretty cool to see that program kind of turn around. It was a disaster, and now they've put together some really good talent. But yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, his best season, he threw his best year, like his rookie season, he obviously had the 24 touchdown passes in his rookie year, which is kind of weird to think that he hasn't even he's hit 20 touchdown passes once, and that was his rookie season, and that was it. Like since then, he hasn't even sniffed 20 touchdown passes since. So basically, he had 24 touchdowns his rookie year, hasn't even sniffed that since. That's a problem. That's a concern if he's kind of on this downward trajectory. But really, outside of just his rookie year, his best season, he had 15 touchdowns as a starter. 15 touchdowns. It was his best year. And they gave him $40 million for that. And then he tore his ACL. Yeah. I mean, and the Giants obviously don't believe. And I know Giants fans, right? I'm in the area. I know more Giants fans than I actually do Jets fans. Like most of my friends are Giants fans. And they're like, oh, if he struggles, if he struggles this year, we're going to bench him and we're going to bring in Drew Lock. Are you kidding me? Drew Lock. Seriously. We're sitting here right now, right? You know, it's a nice day outside. Please get some fresh air. Do not sit here and tell me, oh, Daniel Jones, don't worry. If he struggles, we have Drew Lock. Malik Neighbors is going to walk out of the stadium if Drew Lock takes the field. You won't even have Neighbors for an entire year.
The Alvin Kamara.
I mean, come on now. Really? We're sitting here saying, oh, well, Drew Lock. Drew Lock has thrown 5 touchdown passes the last 2 years combined.
I mean, he beat Philly with those 5 touchdowns. You know, he had a game in there where he went and beat Philly. So
that's right.
That's a highlight.
But to be fair, Philly forgot how to play defense at that point in the season.
That's true.
So if he played Philly early in the year, I mean, come on, just no way. Giants fans like, oh, if Daniel Jones struggles, we're gonna throw Drew Lock out there. Are we serious? Are we serious? We're Drew Lock.
Here's Drew the question: If okay, Daniel Jones is a no. Let's just say they bench him for Drew Lock. You're not going into next season with the Drew Lock being your starting quarterback.
No, you're not. So, you're giving up on both of them.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose. So to circle back, it's either, and these are the top 10 prospects. So out of the 10, and I guess it's one of the things where the names aren't that bad, but it's like what you see on the field, it's not exciting. I mean, you get Carson Beck, Shador Sanders, Kewan Edwards, Jalen Milroe, Drew Aller, Connor Wegman. I've never seen him play. He plays at A&M. Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Dart, Riley Leonard, and Cam Ward. If I'm Giants, I mean, the only 3 of those names that probably excite me is Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, and Shador. I don't think I'm starting a franchise around the rest of those guys. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Gabriel
maybe Ewers. I mean, maybe Ewers, but you kind of look at him and you're just like, the talent at Texas was immaculate. So
yeah, and he's also been in college football now forever. He kind of gives off like, well, I mean, he really hasn't been in college football forever. I mean, he has been, but he hasn't been. He obviously was in Ohio State. He added the transfer. What is this? This is 3rd year at Texas, but wasn't he at Ohio State for like a year before that? So maybe
he was at Ohio State, and he actually wasn't. He wasn't early enrolled. So
he wasn't early. Yeah, that is right.
That's why I kind of feel like a little longer than what it was, which is good because it's like, okay, you have that experience. You know, some teams, some scouts, GMs, whatever the case, they still like those guys. They do all 4+ years, 4 to 5 years in college. But then now we're at that case in the NFL where it's kind of just like 23, 24 as a rookie. Like you're kind of old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. And I guess I will say that, like, to backtrack a little bit. Look, the Giants, they might compete a little bit. Locke and Daniel Jones to start the year at camp. They might. Because the Giants clearly aren't 100% on Daniel Jones, and that's the biggest issue with all this. Like how obviously they wanted Drake May or Jaden Daniels. They actively tried to trade up for those guys. You know, even, and I said this too, even the Giants should have, and I said this, I would have really liked to see them go after even like a Spencer Rattler or one of those guys in the later rounds just to have there as a developmental option. Or, if it blows up in your face and Daniel Jones isn't good and you bench him and Drew Lock comes in and he's not any good, at least then you can be like, all right, we have a rookie quarterback, or we have a guy in Spencer Rattler with, don't really know how low his floor is, but he's got a pretty high ceiling. Let's see what he has. Let's see what he can do. They didn't even do that. I mean, they are putting all their faith. They're kind of putting not all their chips in the middle, but they're just. It feels like this year might just be a wasted season, because if Daniel Jones isn't good this year, you get nowhere. Then you got to draft a quarterback next year and you start the cycle all over again. It feels like they're delaying the inevitable. And I guess that's to the point I wanted to make. Like, it wouldn't be the worst case scenario, I guess, if Daniel Jones is so bad he gets benched, because then you go into the season you go into the offseason with no debate whatsoever. If he goes out there this year and throws 19 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and the Giants win 9 games, there might be a portion of people out there that are like, you know what? He played well. 19 touchdowns. They won 9 games. They just missed the playoffs. Another year of neighbors. Let's see. I think if you're a Giants fan, you got to hope for he either balls out, does something crazy, or he stinks, because anywhere in between, you're going to be at a crossroads again where you just don't know.
But I mean, if he does think, I mean, that's if he gets benched or whatever, there's no trade value. So you're gonna have to cut him and eat up who knows how much dead money with his contract. So I feel like it's a win, lose situation, where the only win in this case is like Daniel Jones played well. Yeah, he plays well, and you kind of get what you were expecting, but his play well isn't 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His 19 and 7, I think, like, that is perfect. And then the lose of it is like, we're either going to bench you and we wasted money and kind of effort in trying to develop you, and now you have no trade value. We have to eat dead money and we got to start from scratch. And we're in the NFC East. I know we said it again. Well, we said it once. I'm going to say it again. We're in the NFC East. So now we have to throw another rookie quarterback in the mix with 2 of the best teams in the NFL and try to have them kind of bring something to life in New York. It's a bad situation. I mean, that contract, not even trying to be funny, but it seems like it's set them back for like 5 years.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Dable, like I said, he does have a lifetime contract, which is, he's running out too, right? He had playoffs his first year. If he, last year they were really bad. All right, quarterback got hurt. Fine, they dealt with injuries. Okay. This year, if they struggle, you're probably looking at next year it for him. You have to show, and then as a rookie, can you really trust yourself to make the playoffs? And you've also got to keep Malik Neighbors happy as well. Because I've seen Garrett Wilson, he's about to burst with the Jets. Like, if things go south this year with Rodgers, he's going to burst. He's not going to be here anymore. Yeah. These last 2 years have been awful for him. Neighbors going to be the same boat. Like, if Daniel Jones struggles this year and then they go draft a rookie and he's not any good, he's gonna be like, yeah, see ya, I'm out of here. All right. Anyway, this was the Drake May clip of really kind of just showing Drake May pretty smart football IQ here. But Dable drawing up plays, and you can kind of see what could have been for the Giants.
Gundolphin right. Gundolphin right, 72, Tundra, float, H angle. Gundolphin right, 72, Tundra, float, H angle. Yeah, so Tundra stands for what? 200s. 200s, and what does float stand for? It's got the corner of the out. Flag, we call it a flag, so okay. I mean, we end up saying corner flag, but it's flag. So flag, and the angle is an angle. You got me on that? Easy stuff. Then you use Rita to the right, Linda to the left. It was a flip formation. Good? Rita to the right, Linda to the left. 72, 5-man protection, slide to the will. So if the strength of the formation is right, what formation is that again? Yeah, Gundolphin right. Yeah, right. He's there. The will's over there. The line would slide there. We'd say 72 Rita. 72 Rita. Gotcha. So let's say this before you go to the next one.
So pretty cool behind the scenes stuff there from Hard Knocks. Drake May, I've always said, I think he has the highest floor in this class. That was a pretty cool kind of clip there to see. Giants tried multiple times to get up and get him. They couldn't. Patriots standed pat. And the Giants chose to kind of put all their chips in the middle of Jones, which we'll see. But I guess the Saquon stuff as well is interesting, because another key part of Hard Knocks, another key part of the Giants offseason, Saquon Barkley. goes into the offseason, we all know, as a free agent. Giants tagged him last year, weren't going to do the same thing this year. Shane openly came out and pretty much said that. He said it in the clip to Barkley, like, yeah, we're not going to do any of that. We'll let you hit the open market. There's been so many rumors, so many different things that have come out about, the Giants offered Saquon a contract. He went to Philly. There's been reports that the Giants didn't offer him a contract. Well, it turns out the Giants never offered him a contract. They never offered him a deal after Philly. Philly gave him a deal. Giants said, okay, you can take it. That was it. So what was your thoughts on the way the Saquon situation went down, especially with the way that it went down, where division rival and the Giants made no attempt to pry him from that division rival? It's not like, hey, I'm going to go to, I don't know, Tennessee, let's say. Okay, we'll never see you again. No, instead I'm going to Philly. Not only are you an hour south, but yeah, we're going to see you twice this year. And they didn't do anything about it.
Well, the whole situation, the way they handled the Saquon situation was just so ridiculous from the start. It kind of seemed like they were testing Saquon and his value, which, as you know, in the clip where when we played, they did say, like, hey, go out and test the market, and then once you kind of figure out what you're worth, come back and we'll figure something out. But how I kind of looked at it from watching it, it kind of felt like they were saying, like, hey, go out and test the market, and you're for sure going to be back because nobody's paying you. Like, you're a 27-year-old running back, so go ahead. You can go try to flirt around with some teams, see what anyone will offer you, but you will be a Giant next year. And then Philly was just like, yeah, that's not happening. And yeah, they didn't even offer him a contract after Philly gave him the contract. I mean, I don't remember if you have the clip or not, but there is a clip there where the Giants called Saquon's agent and was like, hey, you know, today's the day. And this is after the Giants locked up 2 offensive linemen to kind of help Saquon. Call Saquon's agent and they're like, hey, let's get this deal done. You know, today's the day, yada, yada, yada. And then Saquon's agent's like, well, look, Philly offered us this. What are we doing? And the Giants are like, yeah, we're not giving that. You know, so be it. And just kind of looking at a little off topic, a little further down, kind of looking at things after that, the Giants didn't want to pay anybody. They were mentioning bringing DeAndre Swift, and they were going to give him like $6 million. He went and got, I think, 9 or 8 with Chicago. So they weren't trying to pay a running back regardless, which is ridiculous. Yes, Saquon is 27. He's dealt with some injuries. It's Saquon Barkley. I mean, still probably safe to say it's a generational talent. Without Saquon at that team, that's the Broncos without Saquon Barkley these last few years. And you just let him walk to a division rival? That's ridiculous. I mean, we just said it. Daniel Jones' contract has hurt that organization for years to come. That is just another stepping stone, some more proof of why that is, because we're talking about one of the best running backs in football, and you let him go to someone you got to see twice a year, like you said. So kind of I don't want to say feel bad for the Giants. I hate the Giants. I hate Philly more. But, I mean, when you don't value your players, I mean, that's the result you're going to get.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, letting him go to a division rival, not just a division rival, but a division rival that is beating you up for a while. Yeah. I mean, they crushed you in the playoffs. Now he goes there. The rich get a little bit richer there in Philly, and the Giants are left with, you know, nothing against Devin Singletary, but there is pretty large gap between Saquon Barkley and Devin Singletary. I don't even think the gap can be shown on the screen here. It's like this all the way, you know, it's pretty large. Yeah, I do have one clip of Saquon talking to Shane at the beginning, kind of just this was when Shane told Saquon, we're going to let you walk. And I also have a clip on John Mara, the owner, talking about Saquon. It was kind of weird. It feels like there was a disconnect. Like Joe Shane wanted Saquon or didn't really want Saquon, but then the John Mara did. He was like, oh, if he goes to Philly, it's going to hurt. So here's the one clip, a little bit longer here, 1.5 minutes on Saquon and Joe Shane's first call, basically telling him that he's going to hit the open market.
Hello?
Saquon.
Yeah, what's up?
You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm chilling. Just chilling with the fam.
You in Jersey right now?
Yeah, I'm in Jersey right now.
Yeah.
How's the off season been? You doing anything?
Yeah, I've been good. Travel a little bit, but just trying to get back into the grind of off season treatments.
Yeah. All right, so I just talked to Ed Barry, and I think just mulling over this, the right thing to do is let you test the market and see what your value is. I don't want to do the franchise thing or all that stuff again. I don't want to go through that. We've both been through that. You know, if you really want to be a Giant for life and you're interested in staying here and coming back, just see what your market is and then have Ed come back to us, and we'll see if we can come to an agreement.
All right, I appreciate that.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Can you give me your word on that, or you're not going to give us a chance?
What do you mean? Like circling back?
Yeah.
I mean, I already told you where I want to be, so.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that. We'll go out and see what the market says. I think it's the right thing to do. I love you, man. I appreciate everything you did for the organization. You know, the 2 years I was here, and I'm not saying we're not going to get something done, but I think it's right if for some reason it doesn't work out, that you know that the organization thinks the world of you and everything you've done. But hopefully, you go out there, you see the market, and you say, you know what, I want to be here, and you give us a shout back.
All right, I appreciate you.
All right, Saquon, I'll talk to you.
So again, pretty interesting there. Again, a lot of the reports were that Saquon got the contract from Philly and never even got back to the Giants. That obviously wasn't true. Giants just never offered him a contract. He came back to them. So you think this offseason has done more harm to the Giants front office? It's
only going to get worse. I mean, not saying that in a spoiler, like I said, I'm only on episode 3, but if that's kind of the start of it with Saquon, I can just imagine kind of how the rest of offseason is going to go for him.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. And it also makes him a bad look because I remember the Giants fans, once Saquon left to Philly, they're like, oh, Saquon, you know that old classic, oh, you're dead to me, Saquon. It's like, it's like everybody's like, oh, he goes to the rival. He's not a Giant. He's not a true Giant. He left the Giants hanging, didn't even come back to them. And it comes to find out, they just never offered him a contract. So this was also the exchange here on John Mara and Joe Shane discussing Saquon to Philly, and Mara seems to be more on Saquon's side than Shane.
What's the latest? Just on the Saquon thing.
I just got a text that Chicago's driving the price up and Philly's out. I don't know if that's true or not. Which I don't know. I'll make a couple of calls. I don't even know if that's gonna happen, but
I have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. As I've told you, just being honest. I've been around enough players, but he's the most popular player we have by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, Mara was kind of on board of seeing Saquon stay, not go to Philly. John Mara's funny. He's like, I would have a really tough time if Saquon left for Philly. He's one of the top players by far. Oh, gotta love the Giants. Gotta love Giants. Man. They were laughing at him. You see Shane, he was like giggling.
I guess they're not laughing that much anymore. I mean,
no, they won't be laughing at him when he goes off for like 150 and 2 touchdowns.
Even from the first clip, it's kind of just like, in a way, I'm going to call it manipulation, but it kind of seemed like they were basically saying like, yeah, go out and do what you do, but you said you want to be a Giant for life, so you better be back here after. Like, that's not how it works. Like, don't let him go out and test the market. That's the dumbest thing you could have possibly done. Find some meeting ground and understand, yes, this guy's been the face of the franchise since Eli Manning was no longer a Giant. Don't go out and test the market. Like, lock him up and make sure the one person that does help your quarterback look good, well, decent, the one person that does help your quarterback look decent and that led you to the playoff and takes all the pressure off your absolutely terrible quarterback play, you sign him long term. But instead, they let him walk. So, yeah, when he is in that disgusting, I don't know if that's even a winged helmet, the feathers, whatever you want to call it, when he's in that disgusting dark night green and rushes like 150 and 2 touchdowns, that's when reality probably would hit.
Yeah. In those green uniforms against the ones that the Giants are going to wear. Those ugly throwbacks. Maybe that was his reason he wanted to get out of there. He didn't want to wear
those. He's seen those uniforms. He's like, I'm not wearing these.
He saw Daniel Jones. He saw Daniel Jones's negative drip in a jersey release
aura.
photo.
He was like,
I
can't do this.
I'm done.
I can't do this. He got out of there just in time. I don't blame him.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Anyway, close things out here quickly with some cut candidates. Pro Football Network released their list of NFL training camp cut candidates. Interesting list. I would say I agree with most of it, except Russell Wilson. I don't really know where they got that from. I don't see the Steelers cutting Russell Wilson and then saying, here, Justin Fields, we had you returning punts in spring, but now we want you throwing the ball again. So Russell Wilson, James Bradbury, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Robert Woods, Mo Alley Cox, Chris Rumph, Jeff Wilson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, and Alan Lazard. Now, I think out of all of these, Toney's probably the most realistic, right?
I think they're all most realistic. Yeah. Maybe besides Russell Wilson. I mean, all of them can get cut.
The only thing I could see with Lazard is it would be a very high cap hit, and I think it would be swallowing $18 million dead cap. So I could see a world where the Jets wait and then just get rid of him at the end of this season. But I mean, what exactly does Kadarius Toney do?
I mean, not much now. I just briefly, I remember him talking about how the Chiefs. Remember that that wasn't cryptic post of how the Chiefs did him so wrong and how he's healthy. They're not letting him play, yada, yada, yada. And then he's flexing the Super Bowl ring. Like, no, keep that same energy. But he doesn't do that much. I mean, Xavier Worthy's over there now, so Kadarius Toney's probably just a second thought, third thought, fourth thought, whatever you want to call it, behind everyone else on the roster. Yeah.
And then Robert Woods as well, obviously a very good, solid veteran. But they've got Noah Brown. You, of course, got John Mechie as well, who played his first season last year, of course, now healthy, of course, with some of the other health issues that he was dealing with. And Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, Mechie. You can kind of see like Woods is like your Woods is like your sixth guy at best. Veteran, you could see them moving on. Jeff Wilson as well. It's a loaded running back room in Miami. Juju Smith-Schuster, who we were talking about. With the way that New England is receiving wise, they've got a lot of guys. Like they've got Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, KJ Osborne. They've got Javon Baker, even like Tyquan Thornton, and they've even got Jalen Reagor. They might take those guys over Juju, a veteran who really isn't the future. They want to probably evaluate more of the young pieces. So he's like a sixth guy. There's always a couple cut surprises. MVS as well, even though the Bills just signed him. I don't know if he'll get cut, but I mean, if he's that bad, I could certainly see a world where the Bills go on maybe trade. That's where we brought up Aiyuk. That'll be interesting, but that's funny. One of the Bills guys that they're going to rely on this year is a cut candidate. It's not good. And then the Eagles with the revamped secondary, Bradbury, another Giant to Philly. So Russell Wilson, I do not see happening. He's the only one on this list that's very unrealistic. I don't know why they would do that. But anyway, any closing thoughts?
Season's almost here, so or preseason at least. Maybe we can get into some rookies we're excited to kind of see for our respective teams or some other teams kind of next time we shoot. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Rookies as well. With big, obviously some camp updates as well from this week. We'll be we could dissect as well. And any other news? CeeDee Lamb contract. See if that gets done. Amari Cooper as well. We'll see if anything develops here with Aiyuk. But training camp's here, full swing, about to be in full swing. Preseason shortly thereafter. And then we'll be back to our previewing games very soon. Previewing every game, all the games every week. Some of the marquee matchups. Can't wait. Can't wait for week 1. Can't wait for the NFL season. Going to be a lot of fun. So that'll do it. Make sure to please like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching.